we want to chase a lot of shiny objects. We've been guilty of that, where we pursue other things. When I'm communicating the value, when a salesman is trying to talk to a prospect, we tend to go in a bunch of different areas. So what everybody says the KISS principle, and I like to call it keep it simple, Steve. So just keep the message very, very simple.
This is Stay Paid, the marketing podcast that gives listeners a competitive edge to stay motivated, find inspiration, and discover proven real-world tactics from some of the best marketers across the nation.
Welcome to another episode of Stay Paid. I'm Joshua Stike along with Luke Acree. And before we bring on our very special guest today, we'd love it if you take a minute to subscribe to Stay Paid on Apple Podcast or Spotify if you're not already subscribed. And while you're there, drop us a review to let us know how we're doing. We'll read it here on the show. This week's featured review comes from, I didn't write down the name. Oh, that's a shame. I didn't write down the name. I wrote down the review. So if you're out there and you wrote this review, please let us know. They say, keeping pace with change, there are many, many places to get your real estate news, advice, and education. However, ReminderMedia Stay Paid series is my go-to, and in my opinion, best in class. Whether you are just starting out or you're a top producer, there's never a day that should go by that you don't learn something new. Real estate has historically been slow to adapt and evolve. With the content that Stay Paid provides, you will be in the know and grow. So thank you, anonymous reviewer.
Yes, thank you very much. We will find your name and shout your name out on another show.
And make sure to shout that out. But our special guest today is back for a second time.
That's right.
Yeah.
This month,
it's hard to get him out of his cave.
It is. This month's theme is all about branding and branding yourself as a local expert, branding your business, building a brand. So we thought, what better time than to bring back none other than the founder and CEO of ReminderMedia, the company behind Stay Paid, and talk about how ReminderMedia came to be and what's at the core of our brand. Steve Acree, welcome to Stay Paid. It's been too long.
I want to tell everyone that review that he just read, if you really want to see how far they've come, you need to go back and watch one of their first episodes of Stay Paid podcast. And if you do that, you will see how far, not only as a company, but our brand and the Stay Paid podcast, how far, Luke, you and
You'll
Josh
be encouraged that, wow, your videos are actually way better than our first videos. I went and watched my first YouTube video that I could find the other day, and it was...
Was it one
horrible.
of the Above the Noise?
Yeah, it was one where I shouted, "This is Luke Acree, welcome to Above the Noise," and my hands
it's a meme.
flinging.
Yeah,
it is basically
it's a
meme.
company meme. Yeah.
But it just tells you, hey, look, everybody starts somewhere, and the key is you got to keep going and moving. So we had you on, I think it was episode 100.
100. Right. It was 3 years ago. It's like a little over 3 years ago.
Yeah, I never thought I was going to do that one. When I said I'll do episode 100, I thought that's never going to happen.
Well, it's been pretty amazing. Like, what year are we heading into? 20 years?
Yeah.
Oh, as the business?
Yeah,
20 years.
Yeah,
20 years. We're like the Three Stooges up here, by the way.
Yeah. What are we doing again?
Yeah, seriously. We kind of have
2003 is when ReminderMedia started. 2004 is when the first American Lifestyle magazine went out.
Yeah. Yep. So, obviously it's come a long way since then. Share with them, how did you come up with the idea of doing the magazine for real estate agents? Because I think that's where the value prop starts, and then we can get into some of the principles probably we have learned over the years of trying to grow this thing.
Well, I think the starting point from it is I don't know if I've shared this before, but I had some exposure to using reminders as communicating with your clients. And so I just moved back to Pennsylvania. I was living in Southern California for a while, and I moved back to Pennsylvania and was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I was doing some things on the side, just trying to pay the bills. And a good friend of mine and his wife, after church, we're driving home, and there's a for sale sign on the lawn of a house. And so she goes, hey, let's go in and check it out. So in that moment, and I didn't understand this in that moment, but in that moment, she decided, hey, I'm ready to buy a house. So the decision was made just in that instant. So when we walked into the house, the realtor is there, and because I'm a salesperson, I've looked at the realtor, and the realtor is definitely trying to build a relationship immediately with them. And really the realtor in hindsight was trying to find out, hey, are you working with anyone? Because obviously, since real estate is one of our prime verticals, if the realtor is working, if my friends were working with a realtor at that moment, that realtor had to sell them that house. Mm-hmm. So when the realtor realized that, they don't really have a realtor, it was a great assumptive close. I always believe in assuming the close. Yep. So he assumed the close. And by the time we got home or back to where they lived at the time, when we got there, we already had a voicemail, there was emails. So he assumed that he was the realtor. And in that moment, it just occurred to me that they were selling, I think their home at the time was $400,000. I think they were looking to buy in the $700,000-800,000 range. And so I realized the commissions at that moment, that's a substantial commission for a realtor. So I guess just the way I logically think, my brain is very logical. I said to myself, when I asked them, hey, do you remember who you worked with when you bought this home here in Mount Joy? And they were like, I think so, but I don't know. I'm getting a lot of postcards, but I'm not sure. I think it's the lady from XYZ company. And I'm like, well, are you sure? And I remember both of them looking at each other and they're like, we're not sure exactly, but I'm pretty sure that's who it was. But regardless, I realized, wow, that person lost a pretty big commission. So then my mind went to like, wow, I wonder if staying connected for realtors is a big issue. And so then I like to always say this when I ever tell this story. I do what everybody else would have done. I got my designer over here and I said, hey, go get a magazine over at Barnes & Noble and a real nice one, and grab 48 pages and just staple a make-believe cover on it called like Your Home. I'm going to go over to the real estate office and go talk to realtors. So I remember I went over to the office there in downtown Lancaster, and I started talking to the realtors when they're coming in and asking them, hey, staying in touch with your relationships, how do you do it, and so forth. And I said, hey, what if we had this magazine and you could customize the covers and the tear-out cards? And then from there, I got really good feedback, and I was like, yeah, this potentially could work as a business. But then when I got home, I had a bunch of messages on the recorder, and it was things like, what's the minimum that I have to send out, which I didn't know what the minimum was. What's it cost? And I didn't know that either. And so there's a lot of questions that I didn't have answers to, but what I did know in that moment, hey, there's a great opportunity. And so then from there, I hooked up with the realtor at that point, and then from there, we just then did whatever else did. We plugged some phones in and started calling realtors and closing and building the business.
Yeah, so the moral of the story is pick up the phone and call your client. I'm just kidding.
No,
that's not the moral. But I think there's some really good takeaways. One is your brand, like oftentimes the best companies and the best brands comes from literally solving a problem for people and a pain point, and defining, your brand around that, that you're not trying to bring to the market, because most of the time you can't. And some people can, but most of the time you're not going to create the Uber or something like that. It's what is the pain point that people have, and you're bringing that to the market, and you're actually defining your brand around that, the pain point for the client.
Yeah. Do you remember what your first pitch was? Do you remember how you first sort of sold?
It was pretty bad.
The magazine.
No, it was the same one.
From a value proposition.
It was the same one we use today. No, I think there was some semblance of what we used a long time ago, which was probably the what, how, why. Was just like, what can we do to help you? How is this gonna, and then why is this gonna work for you as a realtor? And so then,
the second part being that you kind of skipped over. It's what can we do? How do we actually do it?
Yep.
Right. Helping them understand the process.
Yeah.
And then it's why.
Yeah. So when you break it down, is what do we do? Is we're going to help you. What we're going to do is help you solve the challenge of how do you remind people that you've worked with in the past that you want to work with them in the future, because the average homeowner, whatever the number you want to pull, 5, 7 years, however many you want to, they're going to buy again in the future. So the what is, how do you make sure that person doesn't end up with another realtor? How do you do that? Or you don't have to be just a realtor. You could be a financial advisor. You could be, you hate to say it, but every business is a relationship-based business. So what do we do is solidify the relationships that are established there. How we're going to solidify that is obviously not just, back then it was just with one product, which was our magazine.
Yeah.
Now we've expanded the platform to encapsulate a lot of different things, everything from other ways of staying connected to generating leads and so forth. And then why it works, if you start with each individual tool you're offering to solve the what, the magazine just works because, and everybody can go home tonight, it's real simple, grab your mail. If I asked everyone that's watching this, what did you do? I always laugh when I ask this question to a prospect and they go, well, I study everything before I choose what I'm going. No, it's not what we do. We grab our mail and we sit there and we probably throw away 90% of it. And so the really is, we're getting you past that trash can, because when you receive something, and it is a gift, but not really a gift, it's just a way to communicate the value that you're placing on that relationship that you have. Even if they've already worked with you or they have not worked with you yet. You're trying to say to them, I value the relationship that is established. That's why when you think of our prime tool being any one of our magazines, whether it's American Lifestyle, Good to Be Home, Start Healthy, Business in Action, and the others that we're looking at doing, when you look at all those magazines, they're just a way to express the connection that you've established. And when you understand that it's more of I don't want to call it a branding, but it is. You're more reminding someone that you either have worked with them, want to work with them, or have not worked with them, but you want to work with them, and you have to have the relationship established. That's why people aren't mailing out thousands of these things. They're mailing out to the true relationships that drive any business. And then from there, the beautiful part about ReminderMedia and where we're going as a company is we're building all these additional tools to try to fill in the gaps for your relationships that may be not at the level where you would send them the magazine at that point. You might want to have other ways of communicating, whether it's digital, whether it's postcards, whether it's newsletter, whatever it is. That's where we want to be. We want to do this is what we do, this is how we do it, and this is why it works.
Yeah, it's been interesting over the years to kind of, as tech has changed, things have changed. What has remained the same is relationships are the currency of business.
Yep.
You got to get people to know, like, and trust you. Well, our philosophy today is now omnipresent marketing, which it's a fancy word to basically say you should be everywhere. And that way clients see you everywhere. So we have a social media component now, an email component, obviously the direct mail component. And the idea is you're on their coffee table or in their mailbox, you're in their inbox, you're on their social media, they see you more times, therefore they recognize you more times, you're top of mind, they get to know you, they get to like you, and then ultimately if you serve them the right information, they get to trust you. One of the things that's been interesting in growing the company that I think you could talk about is the simplicity that you have to keep things. And I think this is very appropriate for when you think about your brand, right? And people are building a brand right now. You need to keep your value prop and keep your brand, I would say, simple. Yep. But talk about what your thought process is on when we're delivering the value proposition, or when you're thinking about the brand from a simplicity standpoint.
Well, I think the simplest of all is what you just mentioned. I'll say it again. It does boil down to the relationships that you have. That's what it all comes back to. So the simplicity of your message should always be reminding the relationship that you have and building upon that. So it's the same thing that when we're working with our team to communicate our value, it's keeping the message simple. Sometimes we want to chase a lot of shiny objects. We've been guilty of that, where we pursue other things. When I'm communicating the value, when a salesman is trying to talk to a prospect, we tend to go in a bunch of different areas. So what everybody says the KISS principle, and I like to call it keep it simple, Steve. So just keep the message very, very simple. And so when we're talking to one of our prospects or when we're talking to a client, we just always want to remind them, your message has to be simple. And I believe your message is whatever business you're in. And I want to broaden this not just in real estate to financial advisor, mortgage, title, the lawyers that are contacting, that we're dealing with 70 different groups that we're doing magazines for. It's helping them. Your message should be very, very simple. I'm in a relationship with you for whatever it is that you do, and I'm here when you need me in the future, or whether you need me now, or whether I helped you in the past. I'm here because of the relationship. Just keep it that simple. And then if you do that, it's successful normally follows. Because you don't tend to go after other things. It's when you try to be everything to everyone is
you're nothing to no one.
Nobody.
I don't know.
And you perform. Well, I don't know if that was exactly what I was saying, but you tend to perform. If you try to do 10 things, you'll probably do 9 things average.
Yes.
And somebody's going to kick your backside if you're average.
Yep.
So you want to be really good in the one thing that you do. And that's what we try to do is, relationship marketing, staying relevant to your relationships on a consistent basis every couple of months, and with our other tools, weekly, social posting, all those things. But the simplicity is keep yourself top of mind in the relationships that are going to make you successful.
Yeah.
It's. I was going to say, we also saw, and you guys probably remember this too, is you can't scale an organization with too many variables from a focus standpoint, and then also from a messaging standpoint. Because I remember you got rid of our outside sales manager. And the main reason you got rid of them is because they were calling up our outside sales presenters, and they're basically sharing good stuff, but it's so random, right? It was very
confusing
random.
from the core message.
And so from a core message standpoint, it wasn't like what they were saying, and this should be a powerful application for people listening. you're going to have people on your team. They're not doing something wrong necessarily. This person was training our reps and they weren't saying things that were wrong. They were giving them good, piece of advice, but it wasn't focused and it wasn't on process with, hey, no, this is what we do. This is how we do it. This is why it works. This is what the brand is. Say that and only that. Yeah. And if you look at the greatest leaders of all time, they tend to shout the same thing from stage over and over and over again. And if you read these business books, they literally tell you, and I never valued it in the past as much as I do today, now that we've reached 300 employees, is that, oh my gosh, no, every time you speak, you need to reiterate the vision. You need to reiterate because it's
so funny because yesterday we were on like a management training and it was, we were going through SMART goals. And it's one of those things you take for granted. We're like, okay, everyone, we've talked about SMART goals. We've done podcasts on SMART goals. We've trained on SMART goals, and going through it when we were asking people, or our HR manager was kind of calling on people to say the acronyms. And it's no problem. They were getting some wrong. And you're like, oh my gosh, the number of times we've talked about SMART goals, it's like, no, you actually have to keep reinforcing that message or people won't pick up on it.
Well, Jeff, the CEO of LinkedIn, he literally said, a simple problem with given multiple layers becomes complex. And the concept there is that what you do might be simple, but you add on multiple layers. And for you, maybe you're just a single real estate agent right now. You don't even have a team or employees. But when you add on the title person, the mortgage person, everybody that's involved in that transaction, that simple thing of communication became extremely complex because now you have multi-layers that you have to communicate through. And it's like, that's why it's so important for your brand to have a single focus point, a single message for your company and your messaging to have a single focus point. And that is what you drive to every single time.
Yeah.
And it's what you become known for.
Yeah, that is probably, it's like when you think about it, we won't get into it, but you think about just the business environment, the political environment, all of it. It's a singularity of the message that you're giving over and over and over again. It's why when I'm working with team leads and trainers, it's just constantly reminding them that it's the same message, and you just gotta give it over and over and over again. And that's, I'm not saying it's a tortoise and the hare, but like a salesperson who can be locked in on a simple message and repeat it over and over and over again is probably going to beat.
They're going to beat them.
They're going to beat them because the great salesman will end up talking about a bunch of different things.
Well, Jeff, our best sales guy, has been 18 years. I mean, he was with before at the other company, but says the same thing over and over again. Yeah. He's made calls for like 18 years. So if you are nervous of making calls, maybe we get Jeff on sometime. I doubt he would come on the podcast, but he's made calls for 18 plus years. Says the same thing.
He'll just drag us for not having him on the podcast. Yeah. But
he'll never get on. He'll never get on.
He was interesting. He was one of my first hires, and it was the most amazing thing is usually when I hired someone back then, a little different than we do it today. We do it a little more systematic today than the way I used to do it. But I can remember when I brought Jeff in, he's a person that was so much like me. Is like I made some phone calls with him, and then he had the headset on listening, and I said, see, this is kind of what we're doing. And then I asked him to make the calls. And the humorous thing was he kind of looked at his watch like
during the interview?
Yeah, during the interview. He goes, okay, all right. And so, but he got on, and it was the most amazing thing. It's never happened to me since then. He pretty much was able to deliver the message. We talk about simple.
He didn't add anything. Yeah.
He didn't add anything. He just did it. In fact, I remember at the time, I think he actually, on that one of his first calls, he actually got in a photo and a list. The first one, he was just methodical about his message and what he needed in order to help them succeed.
Yeah.
The what, how, why. He'd heard me do it, because obviously on the intro call, he just pretty much did it that way. And then I remember when he got off the phone, he's like, so is that what you need me to do?
Yeah, dude.
And I'm like, yeah, when can you start today? Can you start like right now in 5 minutes? He laughed. He goes, no, I can't do that. But so Jeff was, he's
There's
incredible.
Such a valuable lesson there of stop thinking that your features help you actually sell. Yeah. And like your feature, like people try to throw on in their brand or in their sales process. If we can just showcase that we have all these features and all these things, it's going to help us sell. It doesn't. It's the features tell, value sells. Yeah. And it's like the thing that you need to look at and make sure that you hone in on your core value prop is what is the brand that your clients believe you have. And Tony Robbins puts it this way: what pain point are you helping them solve, or what desire are you helping them achieve? And oftentimes it happens both at the same time. You solve a pain, you get a desire. The point of saying that is going, man, that is all you should preach all day long. So when you go to your listing presentation, it's not that important to spit out all of your features that you offer. What's most important is, what is the pain point that you're helping this person solve, and what is the desire that you're helping them achieve? That is what your brand is. And if we called up the person that you did the listing presentation to after you did it, would they tell us that's what your brand was?
Yeah.
Like, that is the real challenge to everybody. Is like, if we ask your clients today what your brand is, what would they say? Because that's truly what your brand is. Because whether you think you have a brand or not, you have a brand.
Yeah.
I think it was Ed Stulak that we had on the podcast that mentioned that. It's like, every single person has a brand. You either control it or you don't control it.
Well, Marty Neumeyer said the same thing, where it's like your brand is what people think about you. It's what they say about you, not what you say. So we kind of talked about the idea of the brand and the messaging from a sales perspective, from a value proposition. Talk about it from now a business perspective, because as we grew larger in size over the last 20 years, obviously, you had those situations where people were kind of coming up with their own messages, their own value proposition, and started to lose focus of this idea we've talked about, rowing in the same direction, right? We want to row in the same direction, because if you're not, you're going to end up going in circles. So talk about sort of aligning the business behind this mission and vision from the perspective of all being on the same page with the message.
Yeah, I think what I would say for me, being I'm very entrepreneurial. I still love to get in the details. I'm learning not to as best I can. I'm learning not to. But
that is one of the hardest things.
It is
about leadership.
It definitely is. It definitely is. So you know what I would say is, like, as we've been growing and getting bigger and bigger, I think the hardest part, for me was during the mid years. I was having to move some people on because of what you were saying. I couldn't corral them and get them focused on that. And I think, and this is a testament to the two individuals that are sitting here beside me. It was their ability to take you guys' ability to take what I'd built and said, hey, let me put down in writing what the mission is, what the vision is, what the brand is. And you guys were able to take that, get it written. And that was really a stepping point for us, I think, when we went to the next level, because then it wasn't asking someone to not change it. It was like, here it's written. This is what we're trying to do. And one of the things about entrepreneurs is we just tend to want to get in and fix that. And it's just very hard not to do that. For me, it's hard not to do that. But I'm getting better at it. I really am. I'm getting better at it. At least you guys are helping me get better at it, saying, hey, this is our brand. And so what I'm trying to do now is make sure and look around and make sure that what we're writing down, our core values, fearless, our mission and vision, helping people live a life of freedom. In a nutshell, helping them live a life of freedom. How close more deals, retain more sales. That's really the vision and the mission. When somebody comes on, we're going to repeat that over and over again, because if you're not bought in on that, you don't fit within our culture. Then when you're in our culture, and then it's the mission, the vision and mission executed through our different tools that we have on what, how, why, kind of how we can help them do that. So it's really a testament to you guys really getting it written down. And then again, as we grow and get larger, it's just people. So it's making sure that we implement these things so that our people that are on the team understand, where we're going and what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. And people want that, like, they want that mission. They want something that they can align themselves with as well. So they want to be part of a mission-driven organization. So
yeah. Well, I think it's also for like a little clarity, because we obviously have all the back, drops in our minds. But for clarity for the audience, it's like, you as a business owner, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're in the business, you got to be in the details. But what we're saying is, you have to make sure that you don't own the problem and the solution. You give autonomy to the people that you've hired to own the problem and solution. So you can be in the details and give them advice and mentor them and all that stuff. But the mistake that we constantly have made is that we get in the details and try to do it our way. And then all of a sudden we own the problem and the solution and not the leader that's there. And the power of putting down on paper the vision, the mission, the values, i.e. our brand necessarily, was that now it was, we can give you the ownership, and we have a mechanism now to get you off the team. And I know it sounds crass, but that's the reality. I never realized the power of a vision and a mission and values like I do today. If you don't have your vision, mission, and values, and you have team members, you now are making it so difficult for yourself to be able to hold people accountable because it's about your opinion of them and how their performance is. And then you're documenting numbers and all stuff, which of course you need to document numbers. But the reality is once you put it on paper, the vision, the mission, and the values, now you can say, hey, it's not me that's firing you. It's not me that's holding you accountable. It is because I'm on this team too, and I'm going to hold you accountable. But the vision and the mission and the values of this organization is holding you accountable. So when you're not executing, this is what's chopping. Yeah. And I'm telling you right now, when you do that and you use the vision, the mission, and the values as the guiding force that cuts people from the team, that hires people to the team, that holds people accountable to performance on the team, it changes the whole dynamic of your organization because it's no longer one-to-one personal Luke sitting down with an employee. It's literally, hey, you agreed to this vision and this mission, but these results aren't aligned to that.
Yeah.
And so it's not about my opinion of you, it's about that opinion.
Yeah, and I would say, just for me, like when you're a small company, or not a small company, but when you have less than our people, you embody the mission and vision yourself as a person. I mean, you are. So you can go, but at one certain point, it's got to be the embodiment of that you have to get it down. And that's a real hard thing to do. It's a real hard thing to do to get the embodiment of who you are down into other people to doing that side of it. And then for me, it's just been, I mean, I don't know how people, I think on the first one, I think I'll share it again. You know, my parents were missionaries, so I grew up, you know, a certain way. And, you know, I always want to help people. So I tend to do that, which is get in at that detail level. And that's been the hardest part, is just saying, hey, I can't get into detail. I can help and mentor. If you want to reach out to me, I can try to help you there. But yeah, it's about, this is the mission, vision, this is where we're going. This is what we've all documented we need to do. And so that's what we have to do. And then you're right. Then it becomes that versus, hey, I'm not to save you, but hey, let me get in and help you here. Let me, because then it becomes that has been my personal journey and my lesson and where I'm at, is that's where I am today. You know,
it's like you got to let your kids fail. I'm seeing it in already with Evie and stuff. I'm just like, oh man, I want to help her do this right now, but I can't help her do this. I just got to point her in the right direction. If she doesn't do it, she's going to suffer the consequences of it. Yeah. And you got to, and that, my mom did that really well. She had 8 kids. All of us turned out semi-normal. Well, maybe some of us not, like myself, but semi-normal.
The third one
psychopath.
Really has some issues.
He's a freaking psychopath. But one of the things she did extremely well was she did not. She let us basically fail and be our own adults.
The hardest thing for me to do. Like even I was my daughter, like her goal was to like cook once a week. She's been getting into that. She's 13. 14.
Getting the details.
Definitely 14. Yeah. And so it's like, I even told her at one point, because my natural instinct is just to take over and to do it. And I even asked her at one point, I was like, hey, do you want me to leave and you do this and just figure it out? Or do you want me to stay and help? She goes, well, I like when you're in the kitchen, but if you could just let me do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, perfect. So it's like learning that is super, super powerful in life and in business. So.
Well, the CEO of YouTube, I believe it is, and then the CEO of 23andMe, they're sisters. And then the third sister is a high-level doctor.
Yeah, wait a minute. So the CEO of YouTube and the CEO of 23andMe are sharing information?
Yeah. There you go. But there's an article written.
Yeah.
Their mother, did you read this? And their mother said the number one thing she credits their success to is that she did not step in to do things for them that they should be able to do themselves at that age. Yeah. And I go, okay, we're talking about kids right now, but I'm applying it to like business and going, man, our greatest lesson over the years, and you are testing this, your greatest lesson is going, I can't step in and do something for this person that they should be able to do themselves. And you're stepping in because you grew up a missionary's kid, doing unto others as you want done to you, trying to help them. And that's not a bad thing. It's a good heart, but it actually creates failure and chaos in the organization. Yeah, and you got to let people rise or fall.
As the organization gets bigger, yes, 100%. I've seen that. That's held us back. That's held us back somewhat. I often tell a story about my dad, which I think is funny, is like along the same lines, is I probably didn't know how finances were. I didn't have any idea. But in college, I wanted to. And I've told this story before. I know you've heard it. I think you have too. But this would be kind of funny. So I'm in college. I'm a freshman, and I managed to get a job working for IBM. And it was in a plant where when you needed a book. I'm really dating myself now. But if you needed your printer book that got lost, we would be the ones where you'd make the order and we'd go get the book, put it on a thing and shove it. Anyway, they paid unbelievable on an hourly rate. It was just like you died for these jobs. So I get this job. So my dad at the time, I needed a car. And I didn't know, anything about this is terrible, interest rates and stuff like that. I didn't know that. I just thought, hey man, I can get this job and the hourly rate's going to be great. I'll be able to pay part of college. This is going to be fantastic. And so the time my dad goes, all right. And I don't think Dad did this intentionally. But he goes, all right, well, go to the bank and see what type of loan you can get. And so I came back at Dad, I can't get a loan. He goes, okay, so I'm going to have to make you the loan. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, all right, well, what rate did they quote you at the bank? And so I gave him the rate and he goes, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'll loan you the money with 2 percentage points better than what the bank would have given because I don't need the money. And I'm like, okay.
That's where the business skills came from.
No, not yet, but it did because so my dad made me the loan and everything. He sent me like a 1-page document. This is the interest rate. This is what your payment was. And I remember that first semester I was working there. I was so happy, man. I was making money, coming home. It was in school. It was fantastic. But then I actually, at the 6 months, I sat down and I put the amortization schedule together and I realized, wait a second. Everybody hold on a second. I've been working for 6 months and I paid a lot of interest. And Dad's got that interest and I didn't. I said, wait a second. And it was in that moment, like I said, Dad taught me a very, very important lesson in that moment. Yeah. And I often told Dad in later years, I asked him, did you do it intentionally? And Dad was a lot like me. He'd be like,
sure.
Of course I did. Of course I did. But it was in that moment that you suddenly realize, oh, okay, this is how that works. This is how that piece of the business works. And then that always helped, as you go on. It opens your eyes to a lot of stuff.
I was listening to a podcast in the gym today, and they were talking about, these characters that are out there that like Churchill or Trump or these type of people. And they were talking about entrepreneurship and stuff like that, but they tend to be people that are a little bit like bent a little weird. Basically, they're a little quirky.
So I'm weird.
Yeah. Sorry, Steve. But the point they were making is
how are you letting him say that?
Yeah. But the point is
good content.
That exactly. Make this a clip for TikTok. No, but the point he was making is like most of those people, if you look at their background, they came through very interesting, a lot of times rough backgrounds, and that is what has enabled them to be able, like they were saying with Churchill, like nobody liked him. Right? Nobody liked that guy, but he rose to leadership, like he rose to the occasion of the time, and it was only his rough background refined him to be that. And then I think about the journey of you as a missionary's kid and super poor, but things like your dad doing that to you, like the power of that shaping you as an individual. And it's almost in a way of like, you should really value all of the hard stuff that happens to you in your life because it truly is. It's like your greatest burden turns out to be your blessing. It truly is the thing that, like, my biggest fear for my daughter right now is that her life will be too easy. And I go, oh my gosh, if her life is too easy, she will have no fortitude and no ability to rise to the occasion. But how do you make sure that you play that balance? Yep. And I see that in our employees, our best salespeople, living in their car, $30,000 in debt, drug addict, drunk, got sober. They have overcome adversity in their life and have risen to that next level, that next occasion. And oftentimes, like you think of someone like yourself, Josh, or me, or whatever, it's like you have this like where your fortitude is there because you're basically what you've walked through in your journey. You're fighting for something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know that I ever had I didn't have it rough, but what I would say is I do think
you did walk uphill to school, by the way.
I did.
You did have to go to the rubber factory to get new soles for your shoes every once in a while in Uruguay.
Now that's the frugality of myself. That is a good story. Like when I was growing up, all the military kids in Uruguay and the diplomatic kids, they always got the commissary. They were getting all the American products, and I had one pair of Nike. Which is it? Everybody says it's different. Which is it?
Nike.
Nike,
yeah.
Okay, all right. The Nike shoes.
Who calls it Nike?
I don't know.
No, but nobody calls it Nike.
I call it Nike.
This guy calls it Nike.
I call it Nike, so it's probably right. That's the thing about it. We need to call Phil and ask, hey, Phil.
And that in and of
Nike or is
itself,
it
that
Nike?
statement
That's
is
the
a great lesson
entrepreneur
in
spirit,
leadership.
right?
But no, I had one pair of shoes literally for like 2 years. And down there, the asphalt courts, I wore the shoe out probably in like a month and a half. And so in my resourcefulness, I went down to the local rubber factory and had them cut me some soles and glue them to the bottom. Then I painted them white, and I kept those shoes for a lot of years. So it's the resourcefulness of what is. But I actually think I credited something else. I think when you look at, I would say this to everyone who's a number 3. I just think,
Born number 3 in their family.
Born number 3 in the family. I just think, and I know this because my best friend, when he gave birth to, when they gave birth to Sean, when I went to the hospital.
Yeah.
I'm literally got a gown up, mask up. This was a bunch of years ago, but I'm like, she wouldn't even let me hold Sean until I was completely just, I mean, if you saw me, couldn't see anything other than my eyes.
You have to sanitize every time you hold the kid.
Yeah, and so then when
And this is pre-COVID, just so everybody knows. This is not even like, this is years and years ago. Yeah.
And then when Sierra's born, it wasn't like that. And then a few years after Sierra was born, we're just all out at a beer garden, and we're sitting there. We're all talking and everything. And she's literally playing in the dirt. She drops her binky, and she's about to put it in her mouth. And of course, I'm freaking out. I'm like, hey! And she looks at it. She picks it up. She goes, So here's the point I'm making. If you're number 3 in the order, yeah, you're probably fighting for attention. You're probably fighting for mom and dad to focus you on a little bit, and they're not just like. And so I just think there's something to be said with that. And the reason I say this, not just because you're number 3 or myself, but when I meet so many people that are, you just realize there's something to be said for being the one, because you're trying to get
having to fight for attention.
And everything that you get. Everything that you get, you had to fight for. It's the first one got it. They just got it because mom and dad did it. The second one, by the time the third one comes along, it's just like, hey, you better figure it out.
Good luck.
And so I really do think that, because I meet people all the time, especially entrepreneurs or business people. They'll find out, about ReminderMedia and me a little bit. And if they have a company, I always ask them, hey, what position are you? And they'll be like, number 3, So I really feel like the number 3.
That's so interesting. I wonder if there's any studies done on that. That is so interesting.
That's my story. I'm
that's your story. Yeah, that's just because
it's Nike and it's number 3.
They say this about the Enneagram 8, and I think you're an 8. In the reading of the Enneagram 8, it says Enneagram 8s will often think that they are the greatest, right? Type idea. It's like,
that's
everybody.
Not a thought. That's not a thought.
But every Enneagram 8 should be an 8. Like everybody should be an 8, not just the Enneagram 8s. And literally after you found out yours, you literally started going around talking to people like, you should be an 8. Like, I was like, oh, this is creepy, man. This Enneagram, this is creepy.
Well, it's the same thing with the PI, my predictive index. We do the predictive index. We try to get a feel for the person before we even interview them. We do that, and it's just funny because mine are at the extremes. They definitely are. They're at both extremes. And I'm always saying to the recruiting team, they say that's not the best PI to have. I'm always like, it's the absolute best. You got to be a maverick.
Every time you see that PI, you just have kind of a heartwarming towards that PI.
But I did look at most of our salespeople. I did go back and look at that, and it
is true. Most salespeople are mavericks, persuaders, captains.
Yeah.
If you know the predictive index, which you can do your own predictive
at
index
remindermedia.com/staypaidpi.
Yes, if you want to find out your personality, it's actually great for knowing how you tick. And if you have employees, go have them take it because it will help you know how to relate to them, how to
communicate.
Talk to them, how to communicate.
Well, Steve, thank you.
Absolutely.
It's been too long. 3 years was way too long.
Yep.
Episode 100 to episode, what are we up to now? 300 and...
We're at 400.
Oh, 4.
Yeah, 4.
What are we doing here again?
442.
What's the show called?
The Three Stooges. His daughter's 13. We're on 300 episodes. You can tell
know what I think
we're
it
not
is?
in the details
Not to be
anymore.
funny, you've done keto before, right? Like keto? Have you gotten like the keto flu where it's like you get this brain fog? No?
No. I've never done it before. Steve, have you?
No, I've never read
All right, thank you all so much for listening. This has been a great episode. Steve,
That was the dad joke.
thank you for being on again.
We recommend keto to everyone.
The best way to connect with Steve, remindermedia.com.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go
And
check
I
out
appreciate you guys.
go check out a
and
sample.
I'm going to wrap up by saying I'm so thankful that these two gentlemen are with me. Regardless, obviously, I think most everyone knows that you're my nephew, but I see you more as a business partner. Same with you, Josh. Same with Mike and the rest of our team in here. And that it's beyond me. Reminder Media isn't me. It's all of us. It's the mission and vision of what we're trying to do. And I'm super excited. Someone who shall remain nameless always says that there's some companies with millions of clients, and we're
getting our butt kicked.
I know we have 40-some thousand. So we have the potential to really, we're doing something special, but we have the potential, to build something absolutely incredibly amazing. And it all boils down to that mission and vision, helping whoever's watching this. We just really want to help you connect with your key relationships. Why? Because that's how you live a life of freedom. Why? Because that'll generate you more business. It'll generate you more closes, more transactions. And we're going to help you with all of our tools and everything. It's going to be, we will go to the ends of the earth to help you make that connection with those relationships because we know that'll give you a life of freedom. And that's what we're here to do.
Well said.
Awesome. Thank you again so much. And thank you all for listening. You can dive deeper into this episode, get the resources, as well as the video over at staypaidpodcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode and want to show your support, head on over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, drop us a review. And the best way to show your support is to simply share this episode with a friend. If you want to get hold of me or Luke, you can email us at podcast@remindermedia.com. And of course, you can follow us on social media. We are at Stay Paid Podcast. For this episode of Stay Paid, I'm Joshua Stike.
Guys, I'm Luke Acree. Steve, thank you again.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
It's been an awesome journey so far, and we're just getting started. Here's my action item for everybody watching this. I think a really good practical step you could take is reach out to your 5 closest clients and ask them to describe to you your brand. So if you were to ask them today, hey, what is my brand? Meaning, like, what is my value prop? How would you describe my company? Yeah. What do I do? And see what they say. And that truly probably is your brand that you have. So you need to make sure it's what you want, right? Because you can control your brand by the messaging you put out. Keep it simple, Steve. That is our saying for the show.
Wait, I don't know if I like that. I may have to take that back.
Yeah, keep it simple. Remember, the difference between top producers and mediocre producers in every single business is top producers take action. Take action on that today.